In today's video, we are going to be talking about the cost analysis of starting an ice block business. In my last video, I did mention that I was going to try my best to just rush through it. I'm not going to give us this comprehensive breakdown, not because I cannot, but the comprehensive breakdown is going to incorporate a lot of things which I don't think we are ready to listen to just yet, because we're going to talk about using a particular kind of freezer versus another one versus locally made and everything. So that is how you do a comprehensive analysis. So we're just talking about starting here now. So that's why this one is not going to be that comprehensive breakdown. It's just that breakdown that will help you know whether the business is for you or it's not for you. So I guess I mentioned that in my last video. This business can be a very good thing and can also be a drag. So that is why this kind of videos are important for you to know from someone who has been doing it for some years, and that way you can just take a cue and know whether it's something you can do and you cannot do. So the first way I explain it to people is this: if you don't have great power, or you don't have a means of solving the power problem, this business is not for you. There are some businesses that when you start, you just be pushing, the grid power is not so good, my power system is no. You have to have power for this particular business. Without power, no business. So I mentioned that in my last video. So I'm trying to just help us understand how serious it is. There are some businesses, oh, other people are doing it, let me do it. This is not the kind of business. Make sure you understand the energy needs and you can feed it with that energy, either from the grid, your solar, your generator, whichever one is more convenient and cheaper for you. So that being said, let's talk about what is going to cost. Now, I did a system for someone not too long ago. That system seemed to be ideal to start for some reasons. Not just for the system alone. He does have grid power, not so much, but this little window that is going to help him boost his business if he's going to use it for ice block making. So in my next video, I'm going to try to talk about the system. I'll show us the system, the number of panels it has and everything. So but just to put the rough estimate of the cost of the system, so it's about 2.83 million range. That's where the price is. So that way we just want to have an idea of how much to get started. That's why I'm giving us this number. Now, talking about the freezer in question, which I will recommend that you start with, that one is somewhere around 450,000 naira. And of course, I did mention in my last video that you're going to be needing a deep freezer first before even buying this one. So if you have a freezer at home, you can get started with that one. But for the sake of this video, we're going to assume you're going to get a big freezer. And that freezer can go with 2 ice block freezers, but you cannot afford to buy 2 ice block freezers as a beginner. And I also mentioned that in my last video. So now, what are we getting exactly so that we don't get confused? We're getting a solar system, we're getting a deep freezer, and we're getting an ice block making freezer. So that is what we're getting. So we're assuming that you already have water supply in your home. So that way we don't need to start talking or start calculating for water. So that will be at your own discretion on how you calculate that. Now, the beautiful part of this whole thing is that if you don't have a solar system before, this is a very good thing because you're going to have power at home. So you may not be spending money on generators. As a matter of fact, if you know how to use your system very well, you don't need to. You just scale down your appliances. If you have a big TV, you go for a smaller one. If you have big fans everywhere, you go for a very small one. So that way, your focus is on the business, not on what you're using at home. And generally, most people use somewhere around that 10k 10,000 naira minimum on fuel. This is just a conservative estimate. Some people use as much as 20,000 on a weekly basis just to run their generator because we don't have grid power all the time. So even if your grid power is okay, you are still going to spend that money. So this is going to come in handy because when we're doing a calculation, you have to be paying into the account of your solar system. So all the 2.8 million I mentioned is not just going to be for the ice block business because you're also going to be using at home, if it makes any sense. So when I'm doing my calculation, you're going to see, because I'm going to put the chart on the screen so that you'll be going through it while I'm talking about the cost analysis. So the things that I've mentioned thus far, the freezer you're going to be needing should be able to carry or house close to 40 ice blocks. So that's a big freezer, and it does a deep freezer. Then the ice block making machine, that one is about 450k, and the deep freezer is about the same amount. So let's just approximate them to 1,000,000, 500,000, logistic, transportation and everything. So you're spending 1 million on your freezers. Now the system I mentioned just now is about 2.8. So how does it work? Once your freezer is totally frozen, you don't need it to run through the night. It just runs from morning till evening, anywhere from 6, 7, even before that time. Your freezer, as long as you don't open it throughout the night, your ice block is as good as you left it around that 5 p.m. in the evening. So that's the beautiful thing about having that freezer that is dedicated to your ice block. So nobody's opening it to check this or that. Once you fill it up, be rest assured that from 5 p.m. in that evening to the next 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it is covered. I don't know how much ice block is sold in different parts, but it's sold anywhere from 600 on the average to 800. So we're going to work with 600 naira for an ice block. To get the figures so that we'll not mix up anything, we have 600 naira that we're producing ice blocks, and the freezer we're talking about now, on the average, if you know what you are doing, you get 10 ice blocks in 24 hours. So that way, every day you are getting 6,000 naira from your ice block. So we're just going to calculate it through for 6 months and 1 year, then we'll see how it goes. So the total money that is being invested now is somewhere around 2.8. So we're going to approximate to 3 million. 3 million plus an extra 1 million. So that means we have invested 4 million in this business. Now, the other side I talked about that is worthy of note is that every week we have to be paying back the solar system 10,000 naira. So when you do that for 52 weeks now, that means we are going to pay somewhere around 550,000 naira every year back to the solar system, if it makes any sense. Because if you don't have that solar system, you would have been buying diesel or fuel for your generator or servicing your generator, whatever. So this is just a conservative estimate. If we're doing a breakdown for 1 year now, this is what it falls to. You have spent 1 million for your two freezers, the ice block and the deep freezer. You have spent 3 million for your system. So you have now paid back 550 in 1 year. So the next year you are expected to pay the same amount. So but we're just working with 1 year. So overall, what you spend for your solar system is now actually 2.5 million because of the benefit you are getting. Now, if we are doing a quick calculation, what we are going to get from selling at 600 and producing 10 every day, we're going to get, for 6 months, we're going to get just about 1,100,000 naira. Now, the reason why I chose 6 months is because our dry season, that's when ice block really sells, and that is when you make money. However, from experience, I've found out that even during the so-called rainy season, you still make some money. So we're just going to extract 2 months out of the 6 months. So a total of 8 months, that's where you are really making money throughout the year. So the other 4 months you could make money, but we're not counting on that money because it's very shaky. People don't buy blocks when it's rainy. So you have to know that, unless maybe if you are close to the market, which we'll be talking about in other videos. So we're assuming for the average person that's just going to be making ice block. So that way, if we're going with the 8 months mark now, we're looking at 1,450,000 naira. That's what you're going to be making for 1 year. So any other money you make is a plus. When you make 1,450,000 in 1 year, you can see that in just 1 year you have been able to cover for your freezers. And of course, we know that a lot of other things that go into the business. So we're just trying to not talk too much about them. In future, we'll talk about them. You are going to buy cellophane. You are going to have to stress to tie them and put them inside the freezer. And of course, you are going to do some minor labor of lifting the ice block from one place to another just for the sales and everything. So that way, we can conservatively remove maybe about a 300,000 from this amount of money, or let's just say 250, so that we'll have a rounded figure. So if you remove 250 from 1,450, that means we have 1.2 million that you are making in your first year. Now remember, nothing is written on stone. You are going to make mistakes, and perhaps it may not even be up to. So we'll further bring it down due to some other things that could happen. So that means in 1 year, we are making 1 million naira from a business. And if we go back to the investment, we have invested 4 million in the business. So that way, we also mentioned that the fact that you are using it at home is benefiting you at home. You are going to be paying back approximately 500k. So when you do that, you see that you have made 1 million from the business and you have paid back 500k into the business. Now remember, this 500k can very easily be 1 million, but we're just trying to get the figures right. So that way you have paid 1 million, or rather the business has paid you 1,500,000 naira in that first year. So if you repeat that same process the next year, that means 3 million is what you have in your pocket. So in 2 years, you are able to get the money you started with, all things being equal. Now it gets more interesting, because one thing I didn't mention in this whole video is that this system has the capacity for you to have another freezer, which is going to cost you about 450,000. And this is something most people are going to generally do within the first 6 months of the business. So that way, having this extra freezer, it changes the narrative. Let's put it that way. So let's retrace our steps a bit. Let's say for the first 6 months or the first 1 year, let's just play the game of first 1 year. You are managing your one freezer, your deep freezer and everything, and you are able to make the 1 million, which we mentioned earlier. And of course, you paid back 500k into the account because you are using it at home. The money you're supposed to use for buying fuel, you have now feeding it back. Now, the second year, this is where the narrative changes. With a little shift here and there, maybe adding 1 or 2 solar panels to your system, and of course, buying another freezer, which is going to cost you, let's just say, somewhere around 700,000. That way, you can see that production has increased because it has actually doubled with the same system. So that way, you see that where you are producing 1 million, you are now producing 2 million, even though the second year you have already spent about 700k. Now, these freezers are quite durable. So that second year now, the first year you got about 1 million. The second year now, you've invested 700,000, let's say, from the money you made. And now you are looking to get an extra 1 million. So that means the second year, with due diligence and everything, you are going to make like a 2 million, having removed all the stress, money, cellophane, and the labor. Let's just put it that way. So that way, you are able to comfortably make 2 million. Now, this system, we need to talk about it. Like in my next video, we'll talk about it in a robust way. The ideal system to start, I'm going to give us that, because the system I'm mentioning, you just need some amount of money to make it the ideal system to power all this. I hope we're not getting confused. In my next video, I'll help us to see exactly what I mean, because the size of system you need to power these 2 freezers, that is the ice block freezers and the other deep freezer, making it 3, is slightly bigger than what I installed for that person. So I'm trying to help us understand. So by the time we take the cost analysis, I'm going to do another kind of cost analysis altogether. So this one is going to remove us from the possibility of using a generator. It's not going to require you to depend on your grid power. So you spend a little more, but you get your money back very quickly. So this is the much I can say about it. Just a recap. You are going to spend about 4 million to get started in this business, and in the first year you are supposed to get 1.5 million back, based on the fact that you are paying back what you are using for your home. Your house is paying back, and the ice block business is now giving you money. So that way you are able to produce 1.5 million. So from that 1.5 million, you are expected to spend like half of it, 750,000, the second year, to add another freezer to it. So once you do that, it means that you are now going to get a total of 2.5 million. So the 2.5 million is one freezer giving you 1 million, the other freezer giving you another 1 million. Then you are paying back 500 into the account, because you are no longer buying fuel and everything. So I hope it is clear on this level. Anything that is not clear, let me know in the comment section below, so that we'll see how we get you guys to understand. In a nutshell, within 2.5 years, 3 years of starting this business, it has paid for your solar system, and you have your system running. So that's why you want to get products that have good warranty, and of course you also learn how to manage your system very well. So in 3 years, if you know what you are doing in this business, you are going to get your money back without any problems. And that way, any money you make from that place on is going to be your profit. So that is what this business is about. It gets even more interesting depending on your location. In my own location, I have to transport my ice block to some location. Yeah, people buy from the house, but they don't clear everything. So I have to now transport the extra to a different location. So that costs me a little here and there. That's where you want to take advantage of your location. So in my next video, I'll talk about the system which I promised I was going to talk about, and the ideal system to actually start, the system I did for someone, and an ideal system. Then in a subsequent video, we're going to talk about how your location affects this business, because there are some persons, if you stay in a particular location, which I will let us know, and you don't have an ice block business, just know that you have been losing millions already. So you need to get started ASAP, because that is where the money is if you live in such kind of locations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to let me know what you did not understand very well in this video, because I told us before now that I want to rush through this video. This is not the comprehensive breakdown I would have loved to do, but I decided to just do it nevertheless, so that we'll have an idea. If you want to start, you quickly make that decision. Okay, if this is what it's about on the general scale, let me go ahead and start. If it is not within my reach, let me just forget about it. So that's why I made this video, to let you make a quick decision on whether to proceed or not to proceed. See you guys, and catch you on the next one.